You've got to get the room ready, make sure the baby's got clothes. I took a picture of my daughter's closet before she was born, and she had more shoes than I've ever owned in my entire life before she was born. That did not bode well for my financial state or her future husband's. But you got to make sure you have everything ready. You got to have the crib, the bed, and all that ready. And there's so much anticipation for that baby to arrive. And after those 9 months, it can come anytime. And you kind of just have to be ready. Finally, the baby's born, and what a joy it is to hold that baby for the first time. And when we think of Sister Ackley today, she was somebody's daughter. Yeah. She was a little baby. And as parents, there's always that anticipation of, what is this baby going to grow up to be like? At first, before they're born, you're wondering, who are they going to look like? Are they going to have my nose or my ears or the mom's ears, whatnot. But once that baby's born, it all becomes about, what is this baby going to do in life? Where are they going to go? And who the family you're born into determines a lot of your values. And Sister Ferne was born into a wonderful family,
yes,
with a wonderful heritage that loved the Lord, and I believe that set a course for her life.
Yes. Yes.
When you think about birth, you can't think about birth unless, as believers, we think about the new birth. And there's a lot of anticipation at that time of life.
Right.
When someone goes down in that watery grave and they are raised again to new life with the Holy Ghost, there's that anticipation of where and what are they going to do for the kingdom of God.
So true.
What is this life going to hold? What are they going to fulfill their own destiny, their own dreams, or are they going to give their dreams, their future, and their hope to Jesus Christ? And I think we could say that Ferne Scism, as a new Christian, gave her life to Jesus Christ. And what a life she lived, and reached that full potential that we all would hope to reach someday. Brother Higgins is going to tell us a little bit about her life.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming out here. Reflecting on Ferne's life a little bit. Can you hear me okay, Brother Scism? Can you hear all right? What a wonderful sister you had. And what a dear saint we all had in our church.
Amen.
We all are filled with so many stories of her life. Incredible stories. And I'm here to speak just on her middle portion of her life. And that's about right when I began to know her in Anchorage, Alaska, when she came up there. Well, speaking on the middle part of Ferne's third years of life, much could be said about anyone's middle third years of life. This is the age when many start thinking differently. This is what some call, for many, a midlife crisis years. It happens not just to men, but I've read it also happens to women. Midlife crisis, depression, or post-traumatic stress syndrome, however you want to define it, it's a time of deep emotional crisis. Crisis of self-identity and self-confidence often takes place during the midlife times. Some say that much of this midlife crisis is built on the same system that is created during your first 10 years of childhood. You spoke about this. For most of us, it is during that first 10 years, our future, including our marriage and how well that goes, is all locked in and decided during those first 10 years, first 10 critical years. I'm thinking of Ferne's first 10 years and how well it must have been. Her parents did a great job in raising her and Harry those first years, because the rest of Ferne's life is far from normal. Yet she prevailed and walked with God in those middle years. When most people have been struggling with those particular years of life, over relatively small or even little things, here's something to think about with Ferne. Ferne faced things that most will never face. She's gone face to face with cobra snakes,
Oh, yeah.
wild destructive monkeys,
Yeah.
scorpions, days and days of no food, or ever even knowing when her next meal might be. Not knowing, or the evil-spirited men that she faced in India. Harry, if you can hear me,
Yes, I'm hearing you.
maybe you're going down memory lane of some of those years yourself. As a young man with your sister there. What a wonderful heritage. She faced days of hot sun, where I remember her telling stories, even the birds in the trees sometimes would fall out dead on the ground. Hot. She faced years of not being married and desiring to be married, desiring to have kids of her own, but yet not having those. She faced being on a foreign field, far, far, far away from home, all in her middle years of what others would have in their midlife crisis. But instead of caving in or giving up, listen closely to what took place, thanks to the help of Brother Stanley with some of these dates, what took place in the life of Sister Ferne as she was faced with constant battles and times of uncertainty and hardship. So she lived 84 years, and in her middle third years, which would be from the age of 28 to 56, or in 1963 to 1991, she faced some of these, or she achieved some of these things. So, in 1956 to 1965, 9 years, she was a missionary in Kerala, South Indiana. She also, during this time, was an evangelist and went to Concord Bible College during those years. There she received the call from God to go back to India and even received some funding from CBC. She was a missionary in India until she got tropical sprue and had to come home, all within those 9 years. And then in 1965 to 1981, about a 16-year period, she evangelized. She didn't stop. She kept going. She evangelized throughout the United States and all over the country. She preached in the Philippines. She preached in India during those times to help out with Brother Carl Adams and her brother Harry when they had to be gone. She also, during this time, helped with her father's church in Tennessee during 1968 to 71. During this time, she also did prison ministry work, youth ministries, even ministries back in the days when pastors used to think women couldn't minister. Then in 1981, through the rest of that mid-span time, to 1991, 10 years, she finally got married. Her despair barrel that she had came through.
Yeah.
Over 40-something proposals, she came across the right man in her life, and she accepted that. And then she changed at that point to where she turned in her minister's license and wanted to be a wife, what she always dreamed of being. But turning in her minister's license only lasted so long because people still wanted her to preach. And so she did. She preached in California, Oregon, Idaho, Ohio. She just didn't stop. She also, during this time, did ladies' ministries, taught Sunday school, worked in music ministries, and continued to preach at Neighborhood, now Apostolic Worship Center. All within those years that some consider to be midlife crisis years. What is the connection? Well, according to some studies, maybe those first 10 years. But to many others, they would say her deep relationship with Jesus Christ. Something that was instilled in her at a very young age. She wouldn't let go. I hope that kind of spirit that she had in her would just rest on us throughout the rest of our life.
Yes.
She would not give up.
Right.
Even while laying in bed, being bedridden, that spirit of not giving up stayed with her for years. Even unable to walk, it stayed with her for years. She just wouldn't give up.
I was just moving out of the rain. I wasn't rushing.
Come on in, everybody. Get away from the rain.
Yeah, come out of the rain. So, I met Ferne at the end of her life. This is why we kind of put together a little plan here. And I met Ferne after Joe had just had a kidney transplant. He got staph infection and was not able to walk hardly. I took them to many doctor's appointments. I didn't know exactly how to pastor, but I figured taking people to doctors was good as anything. I would visit them in their home. But I want to say this. She took care of her husband and cared for him to the end. I mean, and so all the patterns of her life just kind of fall in place, that she was born into this great family, she served and did all these things, then all of a sudden the end of her family, she's a servant and a helpmeet to her husband. And how you start your life is good, but how you end your life is more important. I'm thinking of people, I'm not going to open my notes. I'm thinking of people in the Bible. Rahab started out a prostitute and ended up being in the genealogy of the life of Jesus Christ. Saul was a persecutor of the Christians, but then he became the Apostle Paul and wrote many of our chapters and books in the Bible that we read today. So what I'm saying is, it really doesn't matter how you get started, but boy, how you end is so important. And I thank God that I was able to rub shoulders. I remember when I got elected as pastor of Apostolic Worship Center, formerly Neighborhood, and I got a call from this man that sounded familiar, and it had a little gravelly voice, and it was Ferne Scism calling me to thank me or congratulate me for becoming the pastor of Apostolic Worship Center. And I still remember that. And I just want to say this to you, Brother Scism. I watched you as the leader of our national leader over missions. I watched you on the platform going to general conferences. But I'm so thankful that we've become friends.
Amen.
And now we've got that title. And I thank you for letting me share part of my life with Ferne. And it's been a great run. And we're going to miss her, but she's in a better place. And we thank God for, we have Kelly here from Harvest Homes, her husband Steve, and they're here. And I think about it, I heard the name Kelly all the time. She was in charge. The other people had the positions, but she ran the place. And she's here today.
Ferne
ran the place. This is correct. This is correct. Ferne ran the place. And so we're just thankful for a life well spent.
Amen.
The Bible says it's like a blade of grass that's here today and gone tomorrow. The poem writer said it's like a dash, here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I thought out of this, I thought we had 7 ministers here. There's 8 of us here. 8 of us here. And I thought, what a great way to end this day. Brother Scism, Sister Scism, Brother Stan Scism, we love you. The family that was connected through marriage, we love you. And I've asked Brother Dan Surstead and Dr. Dan Surstead to come and say a prayer at the end. I told him he could say what he wants. We're still in the time frame. Are we doing good, Sarah?
Very good.
All right. Brother